So good afternoon, students. Today we are going to see the chapter operating system. So what is operating system? As we know that operating system is a bridge between man and machine. Okay. Without the operating system, we cannot make the computer work because computer doesn't understand our language, neither do we. Okay. So it is very much important for us to have an operating system which will communicate to the hardware and get our work done. Okay. So the operating system can be considered as a resource manager that manages all the resources of the computer. It also controls all the application software and device drivers. It manages system security and handles access by different users. Okay. It is the most important system software. Example of popular operating system are Windows, Linux, Android, Mac, and so on. Operating system is actually the first program that is loaded into memory. When the system turns on, at that time, there is a bootstrap program which is loaded in the ROM. The bootstrap program calls operating system. Then operating system loads, and once the operating system loads, we can use it for various things, various tasks. Okay. Now we will see what are the objectives of having an operating system. So the primary objective of an operating system is first to provide the services for building and running application programs. Okay. See what happens whenever an application program needs to run, then it has to be first loaded into memory. Okay. This task is done by operating system. Now, what happens is nowadays the systems are multiprocessing. Okay, that means at a time more than one process is required to work. So how to handle all those things, what should be their order of execution, that is decided at the level of operating system. Second is to provide an interface to the user through which the user can interact with the computer. Okay, so user interface is a software component whose job is to take commands or inputs from the user for the operating system to process. Okay. So now we are going to see what are the type of interfaces. Initially, when the computers were the new things, okay, at that time we had only one type of interface, and that was a command-based interface. In the command-based, we used to type the command on a screen and the work will be done. Okay, so most popular operating system on those days were Unix, the earlier versions of Unix, and DOS, disk operating system. Thereafter, with the evolution of Windows, okay, we have graphics user interface. In the graphical user interface or GUI, we interact with the help of icons. Okay. Then the next is touch based, then voice based, and gesture based. So these are the type of interfaces of operating system. Now one by one we are going to see them in detail. So the first one is command based interface. The command based interface, it requires a user to enter the commands to perform different tasks. Okay, so now also we can run the Windows in command mode. All we have to do is type CMD in the run dialog box. Then we can see the command interface of Windows. There we can enter commands and we will see that how they execute. Okay. So whatever the commands are there, you have to remember, right? The primary input device is keyboard. Okay. Command-based interface is less interactive because Most often, only a single program at a time can be run. So example, as I told, MS-DOS in Unix. Graphical user interface. So here we are having icons in the desktop. We are having menus. We are having mouse. Okay, so with the help of mouse, we can take our cursor to a particular location and we can run the program. Okay. So the examples are Windows, recent versions of Linux, Mac. So these are all the examples of GUI. Now we will see the touch-based interface. Nowadays, smartphones, tablets, and even PCs, laptops, okay, they allow the user to interact with the system simply by using the touch. So there is a touch screen, and by using it, the user provides the input to the operating system, which are interpreted as a command like opening the app, closing the app, okay, scrolling up and down, right? So example are Android, iOS, even Windows 8.1 and Windows 10. With them, Microsoft has its own touch devices like palm tops, we can say. Okay, so that are also touch sensitive. Next is voice-based interface. Okay, now modern computers are being designed in such a way to address the need of all the type of users. Okay, there are some kind of users who cannot interact by using the input device like mouse, keyboard, touch screen. So there are other means also. In those means, one is the voice based. Okay, for example, in iOS we are having Siri. In Android we are having OK Google. In Microsoft Windows 10 we are having Cortana. So these are the voice based interfaces. So whatever we want to say, okay, so speech based, right, interface it is. Then similar to that one, in that category only, we are having gesture based. Okay, gesture based, what it does, using the gestures like waving, tilting, eye motion and shaking, right? So that kind of gestures also are giving the signals to the device, to the operating system to do some work. Okay. Now we will see what are the main functions of a operating system. Okay. The functions of operating system can be divided into 4 categories: process management, memory management, file management, and device management. So one by one we are going to see them. The first one is process. Okay. So whenever a computer is operational, different tasks are running simultaneously. Right? Any task which is in execution is known as a process. It is the responsibility of operating system to manage the process and get multiple tasks completed in minimum amount of time. Because CPU is a main resource. So the allocation among the process is the most important service of the operating system. So the process management concerns the management of multiple processes, allocation of required resources, and exchange of information amongst the processes. Whenever there is an active process, it is having 5 different states. Okay. So any active state will pass through 5 different states. What are those states? First one is the start state. That is the initial state of the process. After that, it will be in the ready state. Ready state means when the process is ready, okay, after its wait cycle is over, the process is ready. Now immediately it can be executed. If it is under execution, then it is the running state. Okay. Then if due to some reason it is waiting for anything, for some resource it may be waiting for, so that is the waiting state. Okay. So program will be in start state once, then it will loop into ready state, running state, and waiting state. And finally, when it is over, the program will be terminated. That is called as exit state. Now, at this stage, the process is over. Okay. See how the program is executed, how the CPU will execute any ready process. Okay. First of all, the program will be loaded in the main memory. Then the control unit will bring the first instruction or the next instruction into the program. This operation is known as the fetch. Now control unit determines what type of instruction is this. That is, decode the instruction. So if the instruction involves mathematical or logical work, then control unit instructs the arithmetical logical unit to carry out or execute the instruction. If it involves simple read or write, then control unit directly instructs the memory or input device or output device to carry out that work. Now, if there is a result produced by arithmetical logical unit, then it is stored in the main memory. Okay. So this instruction cycle, that is fetch, decode, and execute, is known as instruction cycle. So fetch means fetching the instruction. Okay, what happens in this? The control unit brings the instruction, it reads the instruction, then the instruction is decoded so as to determine what is to be done. Thereafter, it is executed. Is it clear? Now, the processes are to be scheduled. Okay. Right? So how they are scheduled? Because the CPU time is to be allocated. When the CPU time is to be allocated, there is some strategy required. Okay. So the allocation of CPU time to various processes in the memory is called as process scheduling. Right? So most common scheduling strategies we will discuss. First come, first serve. Okay. See, those processes which are in ready state, they form a queue. From that queue, the CPU will be picking up the different programs to execute, different processes to execute. So first is FCFS, that is first come, first serve. So whatever the process is in front of the queue, that will be taken up and it will be executed. But it is not a very good technique, because what happens is an important job is there that may have to wait. Second one is round robin scheduling. In this one, every process is given some amount of time, some fixed amount of CPU time. After that time is over, the process, what it will do, the process will enter in a wait cycle and it will go back to the queue. Okay. Right. So what happens? Again, I am explaining. The process, active process, is given a small quota of time. If during that quota of time the process is completed, it is terminated. Otherwise, its state is changed to waiting and the next ready process is executed. And this process goes to the end of the queue. So in this way, all the process get some time. The next strategy is the shortest job next. Okay. So these are the shortest job next, means CPU will see which one is the shortest procedure and it will execute that one. Okay. So by and large, the round robin is the most preferred choice. Okay. So now we will see the next function of the operating system, that is the memory management. Okay. So every process has to be loaded into memory. Unless it loads into the memory, it cannot be executed. Okay. the primary memory or the main memory is limited, right? So the memory cannot be given to any program permanently. Instead, what happens when the program is execution is over, the memory is taken from it, that is deallocation. And when it has to run, it is given memory, that is called as allocation. Since there are multiple processes running at a time, there is a need to dynamically allocate and free memory to the process. Okay, but this work should be done by the operating system without affecting the other processes that are already running. Once the process is finished, the operating system should take the memory back for reutilization. Okay, so memory management concerns with the management of main memory so that maximum memory is occupied or utilized by large number of processes. So for this, there are some techniques. What are those techniques? Okay, the techniques, first of all, is a single memory allocation. In the single memory allocation, all the memory is given to a particular application. Okay, this one is fine if we are having a single process system. Okay, but that we don't have, we have a multi-processing systems. So for that, what is done is partitioned allocation. That means the memory is divided into segments. So each program or each process will get one segment. Now here is a problem. How to partition? Because if the partition size is big and the program size is small, in that case, there will be a wastage of memory. On the other hand, if the memory size is less, program size is more, in that case, there will be wasted. The program cannot be loaded, and unless the program is loaded, it cannot be executed. Okay, so that is why another technique is paged memory. In this, the memory is divided into fixed size units called as page frames. Okay, whereas the program is also divided into that is the application is also divided into small fragments. Those are termed as pages. Okay, so this is the method of memory management. The next topic is file management. Okay, file management is also very essential function of operating system, because all the data, all the program, they are stored in the file, in the secondary storage. Okay, so file management includes creation, updation, deletion, and protection of these files in the secondary memory. Protection is a crucial function. Why? Because since multiple users can access and use a computer, so there must be a mechanism which will stop the users from accessing those files which belong to other users and which are not shared to them. So the file management system will manage the secondary memory, whereas the memory management system handles the main memory. Okay. Now the next task is the device management. Okay, you see a number of devices are connected to the computer. Okay, so input and output devices. These devices are not having uniform speed. Okay, these are heterogeneous devices, and some of them are independent, some are interdependent. Operating system interacts with the device driver, that is the related software for the particular device. It also provides the options for configuring a particular device so that this can be used by an end user or some other device. Okay. So just like files, device also needs security measures, and their access to different devices must be restricted by the operating system to the authorized user or the authorized software and other hardware only. Is it clear? Right? So these were the 4 functions of operating system. So with this, we come to the end of today's session.